All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Movie Battleground. I am your host, Matt Beer, hosting what should be let's restart. I feel like Aaron right there. Sorry, Aaron. 3, 2. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Movie Battleground. I'm your host, Matt Beer, as we have a fantastic match for this potential. As we have this match for what should be a Wow, it's been a while. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Movie Battleground. My name is Matt, and today I'm hosting what should be a fantastic match. The winner will go on to the semifinals of the tournament. We have Luca Fallon going up against Greg, the Einstein Weinstein. Let's talk to the guys first. Luca, it's been a little while. How you doing?
It's so long. I know that it's been since October because it was since the Halloween match, but that's the only reason I know that, because it's been so long. It's like 6 months since I played. I'm excited. For those who don't know, I was supposed to be in the championship match. Some personal stuff happened. I had to drop out of that for reasons. I was meant to face Drake. Drake was terrified of me. He dropped out. I was meant to face Linus, one of the admins. The admins are scared of me. He had to drop out. And now I'm back, feeling like I might be a little bit rusty. We'll see how this goes, but I'm excited to get back into the ring. This should be fun, especially seeing who my opponent is. He's a delight, so let's meet him.
Yeah, and you should be very familiar with your opponent. It's Greg Weinstein. How you doing, Greg? You got it moving? You there, Greg? Greg, are you there? It's gonna take more space up on my phone. I think we lost him.
Do I win?
Yeah, I think he's froze.
I see the sinking galley.
I'll go to Facebook and check it out.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
There you go. Look at that. Yeah, I was getting ready to say, you took it from me. Let's see. Oh, yeah.
Oh, man, I want to do that so bad. Oh, I want to play Isaac so bad. What's his record at the moment? Is it 4-1 now? 4-2? No, 4-1.
Hello?
There we go. We got Greg.
Back.
Okay. Yeah, y'all all froze on me, and I started to think it was my wireless.
Oh, I don't know, but it's all good. We got it now. All right, we'll just take it from there in 3, 2. Oh.
Okay. Still got no goddamn knockouts.
I do.
Should have fucking knocked out Chris Clark. Brat bird.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
That was like real infancy in this. Was it?
It's because Luca, what you argued something stupid about something, and I can't remember what it was.
I would know. I would argue that Sidney Lumet should have won a Best Director Oscar.
I think you focused on something. Didn't you
No,
focus
it's
on
not
like
a-
one thing or something?
So specifically, the thing that you told me after that I should have said but didn't was that I should have pointed out that Brad Bird had directed 4 movies. And Sidney Lumet directed like 1 million.
Oh, yeah.
I remember every detail. And I'm plotting your downfall. Cool. I know that Jen hasn't lost. Cool. Actually, if I get a win here, I will probably choose one, won't I? Because I'll be 4-0, Jeremy be 4-1. I'll either be 2 or 1. Okay, right. I don't think I'm getting a knockout today. Let's say that.
All right, here we go. All right, and you should know your opponent very, very well. It is Greg Weinstein. Greg, how you doing? No, it's you there, Greg?
Can you not hear us?
Yeah, you were breaking up.
Oh, okay.
Recording or something.
All right. Here, I'll introduce you again real quick.
Yeah.
All right. And you should know your opponent very, very well. It is Greg Weinstein. Greg, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Excited about getting this match going and over with. Because it'll be a harrowing experience having to face my trivia partner Luca. We have been through some battles together. Well, not battles, because battles imply that there's an actual opponent. But we've been through some great times together, obviously because we keep winning. And this will just be a great little tete-a-tete, little mano a mano, USA versus UK kind of battle here to really determine who is the best of killer chemistry in at least the fighting match.
Oh yeah. So before we get into the match, I'm going to explain the rules for people who may be new, or just in case you guys may have forgotten the rules. How it goes is this: you're going to have an opening statement when you begin round one. Either you'll go first, Greg, or you'll go first, Luca, just depending on what the question is. So you'll give your opening statement, and then you'll have a 5-minute open discussion where you two will go at it. You can claw at each other, but don't claw at each other too much because your teammate can trivia. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I forgot about that. That's what I get for editing the wrong video and putting it up on the wrong day.
Just to confirm, it's because we got a break here. Deadpool, Cloverfield, sequel, How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah.
In that order. Okay.
Okay. All right, there we go. Let me scratch my head. 3, 1. Okay, so before we get into the match, I'm going to explain the rules for anybody who's new, or just to you guys in case you guys forgot about what the rules are. How it's going to go is this. Since Luca is the highest ranked competitor, he's going to be able to choose what 2 questions he's going to go first on. Once he does that and we get into the questions, you guys are going to give an opening statement. It doesn't have a time restriction, but we do ask to keep it as short and concise as you can just for the sake of runtime. And once you guys give your opening statements, then we're going to go into a discussion where you guys can claw at each other, make each other bleed, but not too much because you guys are competitors in trivia. But once the 5 minutes are up, then we'll go into a final statement where you guys will kind of wrap up your whole discussion, debate, and then I will give a point. Before I forget, you guys also have a 1 minute extension. So before I read the question or before one of you guys go first, if you want to add a minute into the debate, just let me know ahead of time and then you can do that. So, of course, after we get into the main rounds, we're going to go into a speed round, which is like this. I know it's bad, but just hang in there with me, guys. Speed rounds like this. We're going to have 3 questions. The first 2 are a 30-second, I guess, statement that you guys will give. Your opponent will give 30 seconds, and you'll have 15 seconds to rebuttal that, to kind of make your points more valid, to hit on your opponent's opinions, their points that they made, and then that will end the speed round. If we have a third speed round question, then you guys will have 30 seconds, 20 seconds, and 10 seconds to yell at each other or just explain why you picked your answer. So, with all that out of the way, are you guys ready to go?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right, so before we go into question 1, Luca, which questions would you like to go first on?
I would like to respond on questions 1 and 3, so I will take the lead on questions 2 and 4.
Okay. Sounds good.
So Greg can open the first question.
All righty. So, Greg and Luca, we have a movie. I don't know if you guys heard of this. It's this weird genre. It's very, very small, comic book movies. They're not really big money earners. They don't do well at the box office. I honestly don't know why they keep on making them. But there's a little comic book film coming out later this year in May called Deadpool 2. So because of that, we're asking a question, what are you looking forward to the most in Deadpool 2? So Greg, we're going to start off with you, and then we'll go to you, Luca, since you chose to go first on question 2 and 4.
Okay, and I'm going to make this very simple. The person I'm looking forward to the most, which I think everyone should be looking forward to the most, is because we haven't seen much of her in the rest of the Hollywood genre, in the whole actually Hollywood atmosphere, is Zazie Beetz as Domino. Not only, like I said, because she's really only known for the great TV show Atlanta on FX, and the very little seen crappy movie Geostorm. That she had a kind of a small part in, but she's so good in Atlanta, and the trailers look great. I'm really looking to see how Zazie Beetz performs in a really beefed up role like Domino after she beat out so many qualified actresses. And the great thing about my character as opposed to his character that you'll soon learn, which is just a boring choice, is that not only is she new to not only the superhero genre but really movies in general, is that she is a African American female superhero that we haven't really gotten much out of besides Storm in the X-Men movies. So this is a great way to lead more into the African American female demographic that we don't really get enough female superheroes, and especially enough African American female superheroes. And that's why I'm super looking forward to Zazie Beetz and all of her charms, all of her kick-ass ability, and everything else she'll bring to the table.
All right. Good opening statement from Greg. Luca, which one are you looking forward to the most?
Oh, I love Domino, but I wish they'd given her a different actress to portray her. I'm going to go with tried and tested, tried and true. I'm going to go with Josh Brolin's Cable character. Cable is a really, really interesting character. He's one of the more interesting aspects of the new wave of kind of X-Men comics that started in the sort of late 80s, went on into the early 90s. And Josh Brolin is just a really brilliant, really talented actor. He's been in Inherent Vice, Sin City. He's obviously in the Avengers, Milk. He's just in all of these fantastic properties. And one thing that you can trust Josh Brolin with basically always is to turn in a really fantastic performance. And I think that Deadpool as a film, the original one was sort of it was made great because of its strong performances. So I'm going to go with the sort of more reliable, more faithful, more secure choice. I mean, I'm going to go with Josh Brolin as Cable in Deadpool 2.
All right. Now, before we go into it, I'm going to go grab a pen. That way I can write down notes. Just that way I don't use like the last thing you guys said as my decision. I'll be right back.
Sure.
Glad we had all this time preparing.
Of course.
Luca, can you hear me?
I can, yeah. You hear me okay?
All right. Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure I'm not freezing.
Cool.
I'm just trying to make sure I'm not freezing.
Well, I'd hope we'd be audible to each other as well.
Oh, I guess I didn't have it on mute. Yeah, it fell on the couch. So, all right. 3, 2, 1. All right. So, now that we have your opening statements, whenever you guys are ready, let's get into the discussion. Who should we be more excited for?
Okay. First off, you want a character who's this Wild West scarred face with shooting guns character named Jonah Hex. Oh wait, sorry, we're talking about the wrong movie. You want this giant purple god who just gonna destroy everything. Oh, sorry, we're talking about the wrong movie again. You want this character who the big thing about him is he has this metal arm, and he's played by the same character who we've seen in same actor who we've seen in so many other superhero movies. He's done the same shtick that he's done in Jonah Hex. The same shtick he looks like he's doing in the Avengers as Thanos. The same shtick he did when he was Dwight in Sin City. We've seen this performance before. We've seen the character before in the X-Men Apocalypse movie or the Days of Future Past movie, and I think that was better. We should have got him back. But Domino is someone new. It's a new actress, someone different.
It's almost like you're talking about a character that appears in a film that is literally all about making fun of old conventions and the tropes and the sort of things that keep showing up in comic book movies, keep happening over and over again and turning into very funny, very interesting jokes. The fact that Cable is a sort of stereotypical...
We already have that with Ryan Reynolds. We don't need it again.
That's the entire point of the movie. The entire point of the Deadpool series is a send-up to comic book movies. That's the entire point of everything that goes on in Deadpool. It's a fourth wall breaking, kind of fun meta commentary. And the fact that Cable is a stock character has absolutely nothing to do with whether or not he's going to be a good or bad element of the movie. Now, here's the thing about Zazie Beetz. She's a funny actress. Atlanta's a good show. It's an interesting show. But she is completely unproven, except for in one thing. Geostorm. You brought up Geostorm yourself. That is Zazie Beetz' only exposure to high-budget, high-flying action cinema, which Deadpool also is. It is also an action movie. And oh my God, that movie and her in it are garbage. They do not carry the budget.
First of all, her performance, you cannot criticize her performance in Geostorm. She's giving no script. She's giving nothing to do. And she pulls it off admirably for what she has to do. And second of all, she got the role by beating out so many other actresses like Mary Elizabeth Winstead, like Anna Kendrick, like all of these actresses who are famous. She beat all of them out in front of David Leitch, in front of Ryan Reynolds. She had a magnetic screen test. So she's already proven it to them. She hasn't proven it to us, but she's already done in the trailers. She looks great as a...
People have given great screen tests for movies before and turned out bad performances. Josh Brolin is such a fantastic, reliable actor, whether it's in Sin City or Avengers. He's been some of the best parts of the movies that he's in. He manages to sit in a chair and say nothing and still be...
But the problem is we've seen it done before.
The entire point, it's a parody theory.
It was a boring choice when they chose it. I was hoping they would have gone for Brad Pitt. I wanted them to go out of the box. Zazie Beetz is an out-of-the-box choice. It's someone new. It's someone that you can rely on. And Josh Brolin is...
Look, you can talk all you want about Cable being a stock character and about Josh Brolin being a reliable choice. That is literally the point. This is a parody series. They play with stock characters and tropes and archetypes and turn them into very funny jokes. And regardless of that... You
already know the joke is coming. We just saw it in the new trailer that came out today. He makes the Thanos joke in the trailer. We already know these jokes are coming. That's why it's not something I'm looking forward to. It's boring. It's something I've already known. As soon as they cast Josh Brolin, I knew they're going to make a Thanos joke. I guarantee you they're going to make a joke where it's been like, oh, where have you been for the past 20 years? They're going to make the same jokes we already know. Zazie Beetz is a new character who provides new substance, new plot, new goals. And again, it's a great diversity hire that Josh Brolin doesn't enable at all.
Sure, I agree that the level of diversity is good. you made a comment about making the Thanos joke. It was very, very apparent from the very beginning that they were going to put Ryan Reynolds there and him make the animated suit joke. And that was a really well executed joke that was funny. The thing about it is, regardless of the fact that he is a stock character, which I think is very much the point, again, parody series, Josh Brolin is a really, really good actor, and he can hold that down. That's the thing about Ryan Reynolds in that role. He himself is an archetypical stock casting, that he's a good actor and puts in a good performance. Josh Brolin's the exact same thing. If we know anything from his more serious roles like Milk and No Country for Old Men, he puts in incredible performances. Sicario as well. Like, Josh Brolin's interactions with Hollywood and big budget filmmaking and middle budget filmmaking as well have been excellent.
Yeah, my point
and message
is, what looking forward to in Deadpool 2? We already,
like, you are still arguing for the person who is in Geostorm.
You keep bringing in Geostorm like it's a knock against Zazie Beetz. It's a knock.
Was that time?
What?
Okay. All right, so that's going to end this little discussion. Oh, sorry.
Do we have closing statements?
We got our closings, right?
Yeah, you guys have closings to go. I was just talking about the 5-minute discussion. So it's very, very close right now. So you got to really sell it to me in your closing. So we're going to start with Greg, then we'll go back to Luca.
Okay, Luca's only knock against Zazie Beetz is that she was in a horrible movie called Geostorm. Plenty of people are in horrible movies. We can talk about Josh Brolin's horrible movies like Jonah Hex, where he was actually the lead character in that movie, as opposed to Zazie Beetz, who is a very small supporting character. Geostorm is not a knock against Zazie Beetz. It's a knock against Gerard Butler and Dean Devlin and all those crappy guys. Zazie Beetz as Domino is going to be great because it's someone new, it's something fresh, it's something we haven't seen, it's an actress we haven't seen, and very many things besides the greatness of Atlanta, and it's something that's going to bring, again, a gender diversity, a racial diversity, and it's something that's, we don't know the jokes coming ahead of time. Unlike Josh Brolin as Cable, we know the jokes that are going to be there. We know there's going to be a Thanos joke. We know there's going to be a joke about, oh, where have you been? You've taken so long. There might even be a Jonah Hex joke because it's such a shitty superhero movie, but he might not even remember because it's so bad. The fact is, the question is, what are you looking forward to in Deadpool 2? I'm not looking forward to Josh Brolin because I already know what's going to be there. I'm looking forward to something new. I'm looking forward to something fun, which Zazie Beetz can definitely do and bring to the role, which is something different, something fresh, and something that hasn't been seen before, unlike Josh Brolin as Cable.
All right. So, Luca, we're going to go to you.
Zazie Beetz is an actress that has been unproven in Hollywood, and again, you say that the only thing I can bring up is Geostorm. She gave a bad performance in that movie. The entire premise of Deadpool, the entire point of Deadpool, is that it takes things that should be stock, that should be archetypical, very much from Liefeld's own writing perspective. He was writing from comics that were sort of very stock archetypical, and he decided to send himself up. That's the entire point. The matter is that Deadpool, as an original movie, took a premise where we should have known exactly what was going on, and it made an incredibly fun and funny and vibrant movie. Cable is exactly like that. He is the perfect type of character to take the piss out of so effectively because he is that kind of stock character. And Josh Brolin is the key to making that happen correctly because he's a fantastic actor who can play into those archetypes and stock characters while also being very funny. He, as a whole package, appeals more to the spirit of what Deadpool is than Domino does. He lends himself more to the kind of kooky stand-up comedy style of Deadpool. He lends himself more to the action styling of Deadpool, which I think is very important to note. It is an action movie, and that Zazie Beetz is completely unproven in action. And he lends himself to the comedy, as well as Cable does, because Cable is a character that is so much a part of that sort of late 80s and early 90s X-Men universe that it is so effectively going into the type of comedy and type of comic book movie that Deadpool is, one that both embraces and rejects that very Liefeldian 80s and 90s comic book style. He is perfect for this movie as a character, and Josh Brolin is the perfect character to portray him, because it is a mix of a fantastic actor and an actor who gives a lot of material for Deadpool to do that kind of meta-commentary, fourth wall kind of stuff about it.
All right, so that's going to conclude round one. This was a great round for both of you. This is why you guys are in the position that you are right now. This is really close. You guys brought up some great, I almost said performances. You guys brought up some great points, like with Geostorm. You brought up Geostorm, Luca, how it's not good, but you also brought up that she's beat out other actresses that are great for the role of Domino, Greg. I liked how you said, Luca, that Brolin puts in great performances all the time in roles like this and for movies like this. It was really hard. In the end, just because it was really close, came down just to one little thing. I think I have to give the point to Greg on this one. It was very close all around, but the one thing he brought up that just barely gave him the win was that it's something new, it's fresh, it brings diversity. We haven't had many African American women in roles like this. So just by like a little thin hair that you would cut off of somebody's head, I will have to give the point to Greg on this. So Greg will
It's all right, man. It wasn't that close. We all know it.
But
Argued my first choice and still only got the point on a technicality. Oh.
I mean, you never know. I mean, Luca, you can easily come back and get the next three.
I know I can.
So we're going to have to really see. It's going to be really close for every single question, I could tell. So that leads us to our second question. So we all know Cloverfield likes bringing in these really weird type movies that are different from one another to make up their own franchise. I mean, hell, A Quiet Place was this close to becoming a Cloverfield spinoff or sequel, whatever you want to call it. So, with that being said, we thought we would ask what original sci-fi or horror movie should be remade as a tie-in to the Cloverfield universe. So we're going to start with Luca on this one, then we'll go to Greg. So Luca, which one should be brought into Cloverfield?
So this is a really interesting question, and I was kind of thinking about it in various ways, but I decided that what I really wanted to do is what I wanted to go back to a sort of similar thing that 10 Cloverfield Lane set up so well as a premise, which is like this kind of vignette-related story where everything is super tangentially related to the original Cloverfield and how it affects people. I went with a British-German co-production from 2009, which is a sort of a sci-fi horror movie which focuses on a lot of deep space and sort of space exploration stuff, which we know is now possible in this universe from the movie The Cloverfield Paradox. But I wanted something to focus a little bit more on the aftershocks and the human effect of the outbreak rather than sort of the kind of the causes and the weird mess that Cloverfield Paradox was. So I went with 2009's Pandorum, which was directed by Christian Olvart. It's about a world in which the natural resources have all dwindled, and a group of scientists and civilians go onto this ship and go out into deep space to basically look for new worlds. And let's just say horror happens because of the trauma of the events and surroundings. And this was a film that was not received very well. It was not taken very well. Critics didn't respond super well to it, and has kind of come and been forgotten with time. So I'm going to go with a way to really improve this movie. I think would be including it in the Cloverfield universe. So let's go with that.
All right. Good opening statement from Luca. Greg, what do you think should be brought into Cloverfield?
Well, firstly, I got 4 words for you. The Cloverfield Paradox sucks.
It does.
And Luca's basically doing that times 2. But nothing about his crappy idea. Let's move on to my amazing idea, which is automatically, this is a really bad, really crappy 80s movie, 80s stock horror, one of those like things done on a micro budget called CHUD. Stands for Cannibalistic Humanoid Underground Dweller. Where about these like basically cannibalistic humanoid alien like things in the sewers under New York City. what we're going to do is basically scrap most of that movie, and I'm going to set it tangentially on the same time period as the first Cloverfield movie, and do my movie is going to be called Cloverfield Hanger On Underground Dweller: Parasite. Because in the Cloverfield universe, the Cloverfield monsters have attached to them human-sized creature called parasites that they have that drape up off them to basically go feed off of whatever's around them. So what you do is you have the 2008 Cloverfield movie going on that you have in the background. You can show that my cast have them passing by, people running by, and you get people trying to hide out in the sewers, getting away in the sewers. And what they find down there is that the parasites, due to the Cloverfield monsters being drawn towards water, they go down to the sewers, and that's where we find our main cast trying to get away from these parasites that are attached to these Cloverfield monsters. And that is the reason I think it'll be something. It's a great thing. It's a great way to bring in a new side to the Cloverfield monster that hasn't really been explored in other movies. And it's a great way to get back to the actual foundation of the Cloverfield movie, which is the handheld, dark, gritty, really small budget movie that you have, while banking off of the original Cloverfield that you already have with the same setting and the same abilities.
All right, good opening statements from both of you guys. We're going to get right into the discussion. You guys got 5 minutes, so take it away whenever you guys are ready.
No. Hey, you are arguing to bring Cloverfield back to the very beginning as if it had done none of the expansion that it has continued to do throughout the series. I do not like the Cloverfield paradox, but 10 Cloverfield Lane and Cloverfield Paradox in idea and in theory expanded the universe and expanded the filmmaking styles. The Cloverfield franchise is one of the most stylistically diverse film franchises we have, and you want to bring it back to the very beginning, that very, very sort of basic premise, which the entire movie industry has moved past from now. Cloverfield is the highest example of it, but you literally just want to go back to the same found footage formula, which we have moved past in the Cloverfield franchise has moved past. And also,
are you saying that Hollywood has moved past the found footage horror genre? Are you serious?
Greg, I'm not finished. And also, you want to take a movie that has a film that has now got such an incredibly strong cult appeal and is Chud is not a good movie, but as a cult film, as a so bad it's good film, as a cultural as a piece of cultural sort of how to put it, as a cultural memorial to a great era.
It is a bad movie.
Fantastic. And the thing that we now have a habit of doing with movies from the kind of the 1980s slasher movies is taking them, modernizing them, putting this beautiful sheen on it, and making them so heartless, so soulless, so unpleasant. Here's the thing about Pandora. It is a film that came and it went and it was badly received. Chud is also a movie that was badly
because
received.
It sucked.
But Chud is also a movie that was badly received, that has stayed a piece of cultural consciousness. Pandorum is a film that came and went.
Pandorum was done on a $60 million budget and turned out sucking. We're talking
about making a different movie based on the initial one.
You picked the version of Event Horizon. Why did you just pick Event Horizon? Why are you? And for a second of all, at least I'm going somewhere different. You're going into the exact same setting.
You were going back to the first Cloverfield. You were just putting it underground and doing the exact same premise, the exact same concept, with the exact same execution.
Yeah, underground. Has any of the Cloverfield movies gone underground into the sewers? Have any of the Cloverfield movies gone underground into the sewers?
You were doing something. There's still this sort of monster movie chase thing the first Cloverfield movie did. The best thing the Cloverfield franchise did was expand outward from that into new filmmaking and stylistic ideas. That is the best. And you
have to create more monsters to expand. The parasites are a part of the Cloverfield mythology that has not been explored properly in the Cloverfield universe, and it is a great way to bring them in to the Cloverfield universe. Unlike you have these huge ass monsters that are very minimal part of other series, you can actually bring the parasites into a lot of different stories, as opposed to the Cloverfield monster, which is just this huge ass monster. You're talking about doing the Paradox again, which is a shitty space movie that they didn't get right the first time, and you want to do another one. Why? And second of all, yeah, I know Chud was a bad movie. That was the point. It was a bad movie. It was a so bad. It kind of was good, but still not really good because it's a really bad movie. The point of me changing Chud is to get something new into the Cloverfield universe that will expand and create new opportunities that the Cloverfield universe does not already have. That is the problem, and you're doubling down on something that's already been done. You picked the same movie.
The only thing that you're doing that is new is that you are changing the size of the monsters. You are still doing a handycam-based monster film, which was played out for years and years and years. Cloverfield is the height of it, and now we've gone past it. And the best thing that Cloverfield does is expand to focus on the human effects of the Cloverfield attack. 10 Cloverfield Lane, probably the best movie in the series, and it shows the human effects. Right? That is what I'm trying to do with Pandora. Because how
are you doing that with Pandorum? Pandorum is not a good movie. It was a hugely budgeted movie that didn't fail. You're doing Cloverfield Paradox again. Why didn't you just pick Event Horizon? It was a better space movie.
Here's the thing. We're talking about remaking a movie, not putting the same movie into the franchise. I'm choosing Pandorum because it was a bad movie that you can expand on by putting it into the Cloverfield universe. It is focusing on the human aspects because it is focusing on the dwindling resources from the Cloverfield outbreak and how that affects, like any cataclysmic world-ending event would. The only thing that Pandorum and the Cloverfield Paradox have in common is the deep space setting. You are focusing with...
That's a pretty big part of it.
The setting, just the fact that it's in space, you can do different stories in space. Alien is not the same movie as the Cloverfield Paradox.
Do you remember the plot of Pandorum? Pandorum's plot is the Earth explodes. And at the end of the movie, there's only 1,200 human survivors left. So if Pandorum is in this universe, there is no more Earth, and there's only 1,200 humans left. Pandorum
begins with the resources on Earth running out, and they go into deep space to find things.
And Earth explodes. They explain that in the movie. Earth explodes.
Yeah, so hold a second. Why is that an issue? We are talking about going into deep space.
Thank you. All right. So that's going to conclude the discussion portion of this round. We're going to go into our closing debates. Just wrap everything up as much as you can. Put in a nice little bow. And, it's really, really close. So this is really going to sell it again. So we're going to start with Luca, then we'll go to Greg.
Greg is arguing for a few things. Greg is arguing for taking the Cloverfield series back to its found footage roots, which it has expanded beyond and become better for. Greg is arguing for taking a film that is a large part of cultural consciousness because of its specific identity as being a bad, low-budget 80s movie and adapting it to modern times. That has never worked. We've had several slasher remakes and several monster movies remakes from the 80s that have just not worked. We've had The Thing, we've had Friday the 13th, we've had Nightmare on Elm Street. None of them have worked. Greg is also arguing against a film that is further expanding the Cloverfield universe on the basis of it just being in deep space like the previous movie was. I agree that they are both in deep space. That is just a fact, and there is no response to that. But that doesn't matter. So it's got a deep space setting. The film is a different movie. It's a different story. It's got it's got new sort of specific horror elements of like Lovecraftian deep space, great sort of mythos-based horror, which would be really, really interesting. And ultimately, the thing about Cloverfield is it is at its best when it's focusing on the human effects of the disaster. It is not at its best when it's focusing on the big monster effects, which is what Greg is arguing for. It's at its best when it's showing the human effects, like the kind of the panic and the fear in the original Cloverfield, like the paranoia and isolation and everyone at each other's throats in Cloverfield Lane. And what this does is it says, okay, what happens when it gets too much? What happens when we have to leave? What happens when this cataclysmic world-ending event makes it so that we have to leave and find somewhere else? What does it do to us? What kind of people does that make us become? Greg is arguing for a movie that is bad but has a place in cultural consciousness now. I am arguing for a movie that you can elevate, improve, and make better by including it in this world, make it more of a piece of cultural consciousness, whereas Greg is arguing to water down a movie that has such a specific identity rooted in its time and its own personal world. So there we go.
All right. Good closing statement from you. Greg, you're up next.
Luca is saying that this movie called Pandorum, which in the halfway through the movie, you learn that the entire Earth was exploded, and by the end of the movie, there's only 1,200 humans left. So therefore, if it's in the same universe as the other Cloverfield movies, the Earth is gone. So therefore, you've ruined any chances of continuing the Cloverfield universe if they're all in the same universe. And yes, the fact that they're both in deep space, Cloverfield Paradox and Pandorum, is a bad thing because they tried it and they failed. And he's trying to argue that because 10 Cloverfield Lane was a great movie that had this small, gripping suspense, that it's going to be the same with Pandorum. It had the exact same suspense-like stuff in Cloverfield Paradox, but they didn't know how to do it because it doesn't go there. The Cloverfield monster is not meant to expand onto the space realm because that's not what the Cloverfield monster is about. The Cloverfield monster is a terrestrial American monster, which is the whole point of the original J.J. Abrams creation, was he saw these Godzilla, Mothra, King Kong in Japan, and he wanted to own American monster. He keeps taking the American monster that J.J. Abrams wanted from the beginning and taking it further and further away from America. I'm bringing the American monster back to where it belongs in New York City, and expanding the mythology with these monsters called parasites that are in Cloverfield mythology that build off of the Cloverfield monster that is already there. You have it. You can see them in the original movie. And you can expand further off of that. And the fact that he's talking about found footage horror movies, they've been going strong since 2008 in Cloverfield with the Paranormal Activity, with the Rex, with the VHSs. These have continued on and done fine. Chud, he keeps talking about Chud being this great cultural phenomenon. Chud is a crappy movie. It's not part of this great cultural lexicon that we have. Chud is not thought of fondly. It's not going to be, no one's going to go up in haywire if we remake it because no one remembers the damn movie. It's not a good movie. I'm talking about creating this new movie, building off of the Cloverfield monster that we already have and integrating something new into the world that doesn't involve a 50-story monster, instead brings it down to a human level, which you can then evolve into something big, better, in creating something, a TV series based around that. We don't have to have 50-foot special effects. You can then have smaller human effects. You build off of that with Chud, and it creates this whole new expansion. He's killing the Cloverfield universe while I'm expanding it with new monsters and keeping it where it belongs with the American monster.
I want to point out that Greg just argued for a TV series and not a movie.
No, I said off of my Building X universe that I have.
All right, so that's going to conclude round two. Good round from both of you guys. It was very, very close, and once again, it comes down to just it's like split decision. But I believe I'm going to have to give this round to Luca on this one. Very, very close with the thing. But the one little detail that he had mentioned that ended up giving the point for me was that the best thing Cloverfield did was expand, and your idea would bring it back to what it originally was. It would make it found footage, while his idea would be expanding the universe and
I literally
more
I did my final thing.
But yeah, so it's
That's okay. So we're not even using the closing arguments then. Okay.
I did put that in, but it was very I felt that it was very balanced and was canceling each other out mostly. So I had to go back to opening
The fact that
statements.
he's not expanding the universe at all, he's actually killing the universe, was not a part of your discussion.
I responded to that when you made it in the main.
Yeah, I mean,
No, you
he
didn't.
didn't point.
Yeah, I did.
But
We would have lost it.
yeah, that's what's gonna be. Let's see. Make sure my phone's charging. Okay, cool. We have enough time. So here we go. All right, so the next round that we have is simply this. We have a lot of comedies and a lot of sequels that follow. Big comedies. Blockers was a big hit. I'm sure they're gonna try to make Blockers too. Probably won't end up being good, but we do get the rare instance to where comedies do have good sequels. It's very, very rare. So speaking of that, what is the best comedy sequel to you guys? We're going to start out with Greg, then we'll go to Luca.
I am starting off with we're starting this movie off with the great. Wait, no, sorry, I was about to argue round four. Let's take that back. It's two comedies in a row here. Sorry. So I'm arguing for the great 1964 movie that is a sequel to the sequel and a part of the ever-growing franchise of the Pink Panther movies called Shot in the Dark, starring the great Peter Sellers, directed by Blake Edwards. Now, the great thing that the Shot in the Dark does that builds off of the previous movie Pink Panther is that it actually is the first part of the whole Inspector Clouseau mythos that becomes that starts the series afterwards. If you remember, the original 1963 Pink Panther was supposed to be centered around David Niven's character. It was not centered around Inspector Clouseau. But Peter Sellers, when he got cast, did what Peter Sellers does, and he took over the movie because Peter Sellers is a comedic genius. And he made that movie his own by the fact that David Niven would later say at the Oscars when he came out to the Pink Panther theme, I should not be coming out to that song. That is not my movie. The main character of Pink Panther said that is not his movie. And Shot in the Dark takes the Inspector Clouseau, which is a supporting character in the Pink Panther movie, and builds on it, making him the main character and starting off the Inspector Clouseau universe that becomes shortly thereafter with the following with the future sequels. And it introduces those characters as Herbert Loam as his Commissioner Dreyfus, who is always just befuddled by Inspector Clouseau, Bert Kwok as Kato, his sidekick who keeps trying to sneak attack him and building into the great fights, and Andre Marmont as Francois. These are all people who would become series regulars in the universe, and because Shot in the Dark is the best comedy sequel, not just because it's a better movie than the original, but because it officially starts the whole Pink Panther mythos and genre that becomes.
All right. Good opening statement from you, Greg. Luca, what do you think is the best comedy sequel?
So I think one of the best things that a comedy sequel can do is increase the variety and stylistic and sort of thematic variance that can be present in these movies.
I agree. Thank you for my argument.
My opening statement, Gregory. And I will be restarting because of that comment. Sorry. Okay. So I think one of the best things that a comedy sequel can do is, are you going to cut in again? Very serious. So I think one of the best things that a comedy sequel can do is establish a sort of thematic variety, a variety of humor, a variety of jokes, a variety of settings that can then sort of take the series on going forward into sort of new films with new settings, new characters, new sort of elements that are not in previous films. And I think one of the greatest film comedy series for variety is The Muppets, which is just, obviously the Jim Henson puppet film, had their first film in, I believe, 1978 with The Muppet Movie, and then followed it up with The Great Muppet Caper. And I think The Great Muppet Caper I find to be the best of the Muppet movies. It has all the series regulars: Kermit, Fozzie, Gonzo, Sam the Eagle, Ralph the Dog, Dog Steve and the Electric Mayhem. It's all of those characters that you know and love, but it does something interesting whereas the first movie was very much kind of a story about how the Muppets became the Muppets, and it's kind of an origin story to the DV series. This film really goes, okay, what can we do with this? I'll make elements of this. And it's a heist movie set in London. They have to help a fashion designer played by the wonderful Diana Rigg to basically investigate a robbery that has happened to her. She has a necklace stolen and a jewel stolen, and they have to go and help find it. And I think that what The Great Muppet Caper does so well is it sets up the Muppet universe from this point forward by saying it's essentially a variety series of movies. It's a vignette series of movies. It's a series of movies, all of which will have a different thematic and sort of humorous identity. And basically, it's a wild ride from here on out. You thought you knew what this series was in the first Muppet movie. You ain't seen nothing yet. And I think that is one of the best things that a comedy sequel can do. So let's go with The Great Muppet Caper.
Alrighty. Another good statement from you as well. So we're going to go into the discussion. We're going to have 5 minutes for each of you guys. Well, not for each of you. That'd be too long. But you guys are going to have 5 minutes to go at it. And then we'll go into our closing. So whenever you guys are ready, we'll begin.
A Shot in the Dark is a fantastic movie, and it does expand the Pink Panther universe, and it obviously does sort of have that massive change of putting Jacques Cousteau in the main part. But weirdly, from a humor perspective, it's kind of a very similar film to the first one. It's got a different main focus character point, but the humor is all kind of the same sort of slapstick, very 1960s, very kind of sort of hijinks-based humor. Whereas The Great Muppet Caper, what it does so well, I think, is it really expands on the variety of settings, the variety of jokes, the variety of humor. It takes the kind of road trip aspect from the first Muppets movie, and it goes, okay, this series is now about jet setting to different places, different environments, different genres of movie that we are parodying, and does that excellently. It is the funniest movie of the bunch. It is the highest stakes movie of the bunch, I think. I think it is a wonderful, wonderful expansion of the universe, whereas A Shot in the Dark makes a specific change that influences the series to follow. I don't think it broadens out the spectrum of the humor as much. I think it is an improvement over the original, but I think that The Great Muppet Caper is both an improvement and an expansion rather than a change of pace, which A Shot in the Dark is.
First of all, let's not go jumping off a cliff here with these wildish statements. The Muppets are Muppets are Muppets are Muppets. In any movie, they're going to be the Muppets. They're not reinventing the wheel with The Great Muppet Caper. It's the Muppets are the Muppets in the Muppet movie, the Muppets in the Treasure Island, or the Muppets Christmas Carol. It's the Muppets of the Muppets. They do the same stuff, just different plot line, just with different settings. You have Miss Piggy beating up a bunch of people. You have Miss Piggy being mean to Kermit. You have Kermit being the world weary leader of the group. You have Gonzo just being this fish out of nowhere. You have Fozzie being just a stupid bear who's the sidekick to Kermit. Don't act like they reinvented the wheel with The Great Muppet Caper. The Muppets are the Muppets. Let's just check that out right there.
The Muppets are the only thing.
And second of all, Shot in the Dark is, well, it might be tangentially related in terms of tone and comedy. The fact that they played up the Inspector Clouseau angle and brought in the fact that the fact that he's the main character and it's everyone responding around him as opposed to everyone responding to a different character. When you have the main character, this bubbling detective who is right all the time, but everyone always goes against them, always disagrees with them. When you have that as a center, as opposed to the David Niven character, it creates completely different tones in movies, and is exemplified throughout the rest of the series. And the fact that you have, and the fact that you the brought in was the Kato character alone makes the completely different tones, because you never know when a sneak attack is coming, and it's hilarious every time, especially the first time when you have no idea what's going on. You have the great scene where he thinks this opera singer is behind the door about being assaulted, and he rushes through the door and rushes right out the window. You have great scenes. The nudist colony scene is a hilarious. Larry's bubbling Inspector Clouseau, not being a fish out of water in that area, and trying to play up his cop image while having to adapt to it. And the fact and Shot in the Dark is so great because it wasn't even designed as a Pink Panther movie. It was adapted from a French play that they shoehorned the Inspector Clouseau character into, and it worked amazingly, because you think Inspector Clouseau is an idiot who's only believing this woman because she's hot, but it turns out he's right. She's the only woman in the house who didn't commit murder. Everyone in the house is, which is a great part of the plays that they used, and it turns into a great movie. The Muppets are the Muppets. Let's not go crazy here.
I don't disagree that A Shot in the Dark is a funny movie, and I don't disagree that it's a change of pace. And yes, the Muppets are the Muppets. That's a very good point. You've stated something factually there, Greg. But the Muppets are the linchpin that keeps you connected to the film series, whereas everything around them and behind them changes. Whether it's the Treasure Island in Treasure Island, the Muppets in space, the Manhattan setting and Muppets Take Manhattan, the Christmas Carol setting, they are all about changing the settings and changing the types and styles of humor that they present and the types of genres of movies that they're parodying. They are all about that element of variety. And The Great Muppet Caper sets that up by changing the setting to London and changing the style of film to a heist film. It is not the same as the first Muppet. The first Muppet movie is a road trip movie. This is a heist movie. It sets up that idea of, right, okay, we're going to parody all of these different styles of movies, and also it's very funny. It's got some of the best jokes in the Muppet franchise. The scene where they Swazi's inspirational speech, I think, is great. The scene with the taxi driver, drives into the front of the hotel, I think is hilarious. It's got some of the best songs. The Happiness Hotel song is fantastic. It's really, really good. It's got some of the best cameos. John Cleese is brilliant in it. Diana Rigg is wonderful and delightful, and I love watching her. I think it's great to see the Muppets, which is such a kind of an classic American thing, in London, interacting with a different culture that is sort of alien to them. I think that the thing about A Shot in the Dark is that it does change the perspective, but the style of humor, the style of jokes, the style of slapstick stays the same. Seriously? Wow. Okay.
All right. Yeah, I was finishing writing. I didn't think that.
Holy shit.
Yes, that flew by. So there we go. All right, and that's. Oh.
Oh, motherfucker! I should have used the extension on it. Shit.
All right. So that's going to conclude this round. Well, not this round. That's going to conclude the discussion in the round. We're going to go into our closing arguments. We're going to start with, I believe it was Greg who went first, and then we'll go to Luca. So, Greg, whenever you are ready.
He keeps talking about how the only thing different between the Muppet movies is the plot. Whether it's they're on a road trip, whether they're on a heist movie, whether they're on whether they're parodying a Robert Louis Stevenson or Charles Dickens novel, the Muppets are just doing their same exact shticks that they do in all their movies, just in a different setting with a different plot. And that doesn't mean it's bad; it just means it's good, but in a different setting. Shot in the Dark is something completely different to the movie, which literally came out a few months prior. Shot in the Dark, Inspector Clouseau, Peter Sellers as Inspector Clouseau was such a breakthrough character that they put Shot in the Dark into production right after they saw the dailies, and they got A Shot in the Dark in a few months after the Pink Panther came out because they knew what a hit Peter Sellers' Inspector Clouseau was and would be, which is why they have so many different sequels that built on him. And the relationship between Peter Sellers and Blake Edwards is just one of the best director comedic actor pairings of all time. It sets up so many characters that would be brought up throughout the rest of the series. As I mentioned with Kato, as I mentioned with the Commissioner Charles Dreyfus, who's always just trying to get a handle on Inspector Clouseau, and he spends the whole movie basically trying to get him locked into a mental institution, trying to kill him. But he's just so harangued by the lunacy of Inspector Clouseau. And the fact is, Inspector Clouseau is one of the best characters of all time. A Shot in the Dark Pink Panther series is one of the best film franchises of all time. And it starts with A Shot in the Dark, which as a sequel, you have to, the term for what I think considered a best sequel is something that expands the mythology of the first movie, which is the Shot in the Dark does in spades. The Great Muppet Caper doesn't do anything exceedingly different besides a different plot. But Kermit still does Kermit. All the characters are still doing their same old shticks that you could see from the 70s onto the Jason Segel movie that came out a few years ago. They're always the same characters, which is why people go to love them, because they just want to see it over and over again. The Peter Sellers is giving you something different, he's giving you something funny, and it's something that wasn't there in the 60s as opposed to earlier with the silent movie era or the recent few years that came.
All right, there we go. So good closing from Greg. Luca, we're going to bounce to you, and then I will make my decision.
Your only significant argument about A Shot in the Dark was that it changed the character, and it does change the character and it changes the perspective. But again, the style of humor in A Shot in the Dark is very much the same, and you described it as not being a style of comedy that exists in the 60s. Shot in the Dark came out in 1964. It's a Mad World came out in 1963, and The Bellboy came out in 1960. Those are very traditional slapstick comedy movies, and A Shot in the Dark is also a very traditional slapstick comedy movie. The Muppets is a property that came from a variety show, a sort of television-based variety show, and they had one movie off of it, and it did well. So they said, what can we do now? So they expanded it outwards. They expanded the scope. They expanded the style. They broadened the types of jokes they give. They broadened the types of settings. They made it into more of like a parody-focused thing. They expanded the breadth and scale and scope of the film and the stakes. They included Wonderful song sequences, wonderful jokes. Again, I think that the taxi joke is the taxi scene is just one of the funniest scenes in any of the Muppet movies. I think the John Cleese, Diana Rigg, it's got incredible British character actors in it, like Jack Warden, Peter Falk, Peter Ustinov in cameos. I think it's got the best cameos of the Muppet series, and I think that it sets the standard for future Muppet movies in a way where it says, okay, this is going to be like a really varied, really dynamic, really sort of changeable series where you're going to have these characters that stay as a linchpin. And they're going to go through all of these fun hijinks with different sort of comedy styles, different send-ups, different humor, where the characters stay the same and they're what you really attach to. A Shot in the Dark is a great film, but I think the entire Pink Panther series is very much a product of its time and a trope and a sort of passion that was very much set by stuff like the Bellboy and its Man world. I think that the Muppets are something new, sort of something different for the time. They sort of stick out from the other sort of comedy movies of the 1970s and 1980s. And I think The Great Muppet Caper was really the big step towards expanding it into the huge, huge cultural sort of phenomenon that Muppet movies are today. I think it is what really takes it out of the variety show area and into the world of cinema.
All right, so that's going to conclude round 3. Guys, we're really, really close again. I have a feeling it's going to be the same for round 4. It came down to a couple points. It actually, I think it did come in the closing argument, if I remember right. And that is with what Greg said, how the Muppets, all the movies, they're basically the same movies with different plots.
Objection, and, I responded to that.
And then he said the Shot in the Dark introduced a bunch of new characters that are great. I mean, like I said, it was very, very close.
Objection, I also said that about The Great Muppet Caper.
Oh, I mean, yeah, but I mean, anyway. And then he also said how there's higher stakes in there. And I mean, like I said, it's it was very close. And then, of course, how it makes a different tone, which you did, rebuttal with. But I feel like just by an inch of a nail, he just edged you out. So it's gonna be. So that's gonna conclude round 3. It's gonna be 2-1. We're definitely going into the speed round. Depending on how next question goes, we're definitely gonna have to go to 2 speed round questions, and I have a feeling it's gonna be 3. So with that, we're gonna get into round 4. There's a very, very popular TV show that I never watched that came out and actually just ended a couple years back, I believe, called How I Met Your Mother. We got Neil Patrick Harris in there. Jason Segel, speaking of Muppets, also was in there. And we have Colby Smulders, I believe that's how you say her name. And she has a pretty big role in the MCU, even though it doesn't seem like that with the last few movies. So we thought it would be good to ask, what is the best movie featuring one of the 6 main cast members of How I Met Your Mother? So we're going to start with Luca here, and then we're going to bounce over to Greg, and then we'll go into the 5-minute discussion. Before I go into that, though, you guys want to use your minute extension on this?
Pass. You doing it?
You do, Greg?
Yeah, 1 minute for me.
Okay. So
keep it at 7.
Now be 6 minutes.
No, keep it at 6. Yeah.
Okay. So all right, we'll start with Luca.
I'm going to go with what is probably, I think, David Fincher's best movie of the 2010s. It stars Rosamund Pike and Ben Affleck. It features Neil Patrick Harris because The Wedding of the Question is best movie featuring. And that is Gone Girl, based on Gillian Flynn's novel. It's about Rosamund Pike's character, Amy Dunn, who goes missing, and her husband, Nick, basically tries to find her and come back, and you slowly sort of learn about their marriage and their characters and stuff like that. Neil Patrick Harris plays the character Desi, who is Amy's ex, who she filed a restraining order for. When she leaves her home, she spends some time with him. And I think it's probably his best performance as well, besides just being the best movie to feature him. It is a really, really tense, really thrilling, really interesting, really twisted story based on the Gillian Flynn novel. Fincher directs it with the same sort of fantastic direction he always gives. I think it's probably Fincher's most underrated movie. I'm going to go with Gone Girl because I just think it's a fantastic piece of thriller cinema. Go with that.
All right, good opening statement from Luca. Greg, we're going to bounce to you. What do you think is the best movie featuring one of the 6 cast members?
Okay, I think he said, I'm not sure if he's including the Social Network in the 2010s, which technically did come out in 2010, but Gone Girl is definitely not the best of the 2010s, or even a good one, or anyway. But moving on with facts, besides that crappy introduction of that crappy movie, we're going to move on to the 2008 comedy classic produced by Judd Apatow, written by Jason Segel, along with the director Nicholas Stoller and Judd Apatow, which is one of the greatest breakup and romantic comedies of all time, is Forgetting Sarah Marshall, which focuses on Jason Segel's character Peter Brainerd breaking up with Sarah Marshall, played by Kristen Bell, and he meets a very feisty, three-dimensional character played by Mila Kunis, whereas Kristen Bell ends up moving on with Russell Brand in his really big expansion into the Hollywood universe, into Hollywood as Aldous Snow, who would end up getting his own spinoff because of how great his character is. Forgetting Sarah Marshall is such a great comedy because it builds on every character. Every character has a three-dimensional story. Kristen Bell, you're made to think that she was just this harpy bitch who left James Segel, but you find out later in the movie that Jason Segel actually wasn't putting that much into a relationship later on. He does what a lot of guys do when they get into a relationship: is they got fatter, they got more lazy. He wasn't putting the effort he used to in. You have Mila Kunis, who could have turned into this manic pixie dream girl, but instead is this fully realized 3D character who has her own plot line with her ex-boyfriend, who has her own job that she likes and cares for, and is always trying to make her guests actually feel warm and welcome, which is how she ends up becoming friends and then eventual lovers with Jason Segel's character. And of course, then you have the great character of Aldous Snow, played by Russell Brand, as Luca mentioned in the previous category, who has some great songs that come out of it, and then moves on to his own movie. And then you have the great supporting characters with Jonah Hill, Paul Rudd, Jack McBrayer, Bill Hader. It just goes on. And the movie is just is just one funny setup after another, culminating in this amazing vampire puppet-themed musical that just blows everything out of the way. You think it's going to be played for this stupid stock thing, and it's actually a really heartfelt love story with Dracula and Van Helsing. It's so great. Every single part of that movie is just hilarious, and it trumps anything that came over in Gone Girl.
All right, so we got Gone Girl versus Forgetting Sarah Marshall. So whenever you guys are ready, let's go at it.
You're not even arguing for Jason Segel's best movie. He was in SLC Punk and Knocked Up, which are better movies than Forgetting Sarah Marshall. And yes, he is the main character in that film. That's also not Judd Apatow's best movie. I don't think it's aged particularly well. I don't think it's particularly funny. And you were talking about Gone Girl not necessarily being a good David Fincher movie. It's a fantastic movie. It looks into sort of married life and relationships and sort of interpersonal relationships and the secrets we keep from our lovers in such incredibly interesting ways. The Gillian Flynn novel that it's based on is, okay, it's an interesting mystery story, but Fincher expands on that so much through just incredible performances. You want to talk about great supporting characters? You got Tyler Perry, you got Neil Patrick Harris, you got Patrick Fugit, Missy Pyle, Emily Ratajkowski, all of which, some of whom aren't on for much of the movie, but put so much into it and get so much out of it. You have a real strong understanding of all of these characters and the various ways in which they're kind of twisted and messed up. Fincher's directing is incredible. He is on A game. The shots, pacing, atmosphere, style. The score in that movie by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross is unbelievable, and the central performances from Ben Affleck and Rosamund Pike are fantastic. But don't let it take you away from Neil Patrick Harris. He is so good in that film. He puts so much into that movie for the very short period of time that he's on, because the entire point is that Rosamund Pike has gotten a restraining order against him, and she goes and she stays with him for a while, and he's horrible. He's he's just, the way that they balance the kind of the sort of the nastiness with the victimhood there is really, really impressive. And he's used as a real sort of way to show how Rosamund Pike is kind of manipulating events and manipulating perspectives of people, and sort of to show how far she has fallen as a character. Forgetting Sarah Marshall is a funny movie. It's an interesting movie, but I don't think it has that much to stand on. I think Mila Kunis is probably the standout in this film. I'm not entirely sure why Russell Brand became such a phenomenon. I don't find it to be particularly funny. It's just another forgettable Judd Apatow rom-com, in my opinion. I think that it's
Gone Girl is just David Fincher basically just running through the motions. It's not a particularly great David Fincher directed movie. It's basically David Fincher doing what David Fincher does, which is muted tones, dark camera shots, smooth transitions, derelict wasteland of like the mall area. And the talk about the movie that hasn't aged well, besides Rosamund Pike's performance and the fact that it's really Tyler Perry's only good movie, the fact that Gone Girl, that hasn't aged well. I think
Gone Girl has aged.
Every character that is stupid. Ben Affleck ends up taking Rosamund Pike back after she went this whole movie.
That is the entire point of the movie, to show how these people are twisted and messed up. You cannot put Ben Affleck.
Oh, great! Let's have another movie where we show how humans are horrible people. That's a great thing to do.
It's about the complexities of marriage and how that can affect people, how that can make people toxic, and how getting married to toxic people.
No, it's about the complexities of this marriage. This is not an accurate portrait of cinematic marriage or marriage in general. This is This is a movie that had a very simple question: why didn't they just get divorced?
It is an exaggeration.
Because they're both yuppies who couldn't deal with their own shit, so they had to go to extremes, and they could have just got a divorce like they should have, and like most people do. Rosamund Pike decided to go batshit insane. The fact that it's based off of the Gillian Flynn novel does not save it. Forgetting Sarah Marshall, talking about, are you kidding? Not aged well?
It is another Judd Apatow movie about the awkwardness of interpersonal relationships and the awkwardness between men and women, and how men find women difficult to understand, and how women find men difficult to understand. It's all of that kind of crossed wires stuff.
See, that's how I know it's nothing. This has nothing to do with it at all. None of the characters are played as losers. None of the characters are played as one being better than the other. Every character has their own. Every character has their own positives. Every character has their own negatives. It's the fact that how you decide to be in the relationship and how it decides to go with you in life. Jason Segel is not the common Judd Apatow main character, as like Seth Rogen, who is this idiot who doesn't really have a job and Knocked Up, who you said was a better movie, which is freaking insane, or Funny People. Jason Segel has an actual job. He's an actual guy who can go out and attract women, which they show in the beginning when he's trying to get over Kristen Bell's character. Ably supported by his stepbrother Bill Hader, which is some great comedic timing with him and his own wife, showing how funny a marriage can be, and the whole Jack McBrayer and his wife, where you have Alder Snow helping them really find their loving chemistry. You have Paul Rudd, who is filling in this great kind of dude surfer guy who is just trying to. Who just wants to be there and helping and be drugged out all day. I don't remember the black guy's name, but you have him just being this great character who has this funny stuff, knowing all about Hawaii, and but always seems to be left behind. And again, you have Aldous Snow, who transitions from this movie into getting his own movie because of how hilarious he was in this movie and how much of a great band Infant Sorrow was. And the fact that it was first American movie was just insane, and he just takes it and runs with it. And Kristen Bell is no shame for Kristen Bell or Mila Kunis, who are fully realized 3D characters, unlike your characters in Gone Girl, who are just insane white yuppies who can't be forced.
Okay.
All right, and that's going to be time for the discussion. I know you didn't get a whole lot out, Luca. I know Greg talked a lot, but it's all good. You can kind of wrap everything up in the closing discussion, bring up everything you want to bring up, and tie it up in the perfect bow. And then Greg,
I like you on trivia more.
So So it's a very tense match going on right now for sure, especially with the decisions and a little bit the reactions, but we're all good. So I believe we started with Luca on this round. So we'll go to Luca for his closing statement, and then we'll go to Greg, and then I will make my decision. Luca,
Give him an extra 2 to 3 minutes. I don't care. He's gonna lose.
Yeah. All right.
Liberal Arts is pretty good.
Mhm.
And Jack Reacher. Yeah, I wasn't going to argue Wolf of Wall Street.
Alrighty. I will do that.
Shall I just go? Okay. Gone Girl is not just a movie about insane white yuppies. It is a film about how environmental factors can affect things like marriages. It is a film about how internal factors can affect things like marriages. What people don't necessarily think so much about Gone Girl is the fact that they're talking about a lot of environmental economic factors, like the recession, like the move to New York City, like the conflict between rural and urban environment. It is also a film about an exaggerated portrayal of the thematic element, which is the kind of the inherent weirdness of marriage, the inherent way that it kind of can be seen as something that breeds toxicity and breeds sort of unpleasantness. Rosamund Pike and Ben Affleck give incredible, trailblazing, star-making performances if they weren't so already. It is a really twisting, really sort of twisting, turning, very gripping plot. I think that it is not Fincher going through the motions. It stylistically has a lot of Fincher's elements because he's an auteur. But from a plot perspective, it brings everything down to a slightly sort of smaller, more interpersonal aspect, whereas compared to things like Social Network and Seven and Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, which are more expansive, I think it's more intimate and I think it's more uncomfortable because of that. I think that Harris himself is brilliant in it. I think he has a perfect balance of being a sympathetic and also like very despicable character. I think that the way that he shows the extent of Rosamund Pike's insanity is really impressive. I think that Ben Affleck is great. I think that the way it explores that relationship is very good. It reminds me kind of a bit of a Cronenberg movie, History of Violence, and sort of but just to a sort of an even more dark, twisted extent. I think that you pointed out the ending about them staying together. I think that's absolutely brilliant because, yes, it is not like every marriage, but it is sort of a portrayal of kind of the most toxic sort of aspects of marriage. It's a really important movie from a perspective of portraying sort of mutual psychological and emotional abuse. I think it is a gripping movie. I think it is a thrilling movie. I think that the performances are all fantastic, including from Harris. I don't think that you even pick Jason Segel's best movie. I think that Knocked Up and SLC Punk are better movies. I think that Forgetting Sarah Marshall is very traditional Apatow. I think that it is very traditionally sort of performed from an Apatow perspective in terms of delivery of the jokes, in terms of the sort of plot, in terms of cinematography. I think it's the same kind of tired sort of breakup comedy. And I think All the Snow, who you brought up quite prominently in your argument, is emblematic of a lot of the things that I don't like about it, in that it takes these kind of really sort of funny jokes that are funny from maybe like half a scene, and they run with it for too much of the movie, and it gets played out. And honestly, it's just kind of boring by the end of it. So yeah, I just think The Gone Girl overall is a much better movie. I think Harris is really fantastic in it, and I think it's a great representation of him for a not very long period of time. Jason Segel's obviously the focus of Forgetting Sarah Marshall, but I think that it is a worse movie overall. So we'll go with that.
All right. Closing statements and all that from Luca. We're going to bounce over to Greg, and then I'm going to make my decision, and this is going to be extremely difficult.
You sure don't want more time? I don't want you crying when you lose that you didn't have enough time.
I don't want you crying when you lose on a Cloverfield question that you just argued
So
to make a monthly.
his big argument about Gone Girl was it's talking about how it's just a great reset. Like Gone Girl is living in a world where nobody has heard of the word divorce. These are two bland white yuppies who should have gotten divorced years ago, but instead, Rosamund Pike thinks it's a lot better to go on this 2 or 3 year plan where she puts all of this in motion by writing this diary about the fake abuses, by taking her blood, just this huge Machiavellian plot to criminalize Ben Affleck while then going after the Neil Patrick Harris character, who is a giant trope of a psychotic stalker ex-boyfriend. It is a horrible character. Neil Patrick Harris really doesn't play it that well. He's just kind of going through the motions of this. Jay Fincher told him, "Hey, you're going to be a psychotic character. Go do this," but he doesn't really do anything. Rosamund Pike is a great performance by her, but it is a bland, crappy character in a bland, crappy marriage that should have ended years ago, but people just want to complain and whine and go through all these other Machiavellian tactics. And I don't know. And she complains the entire time about how she was made into this children's book when she was a kid. It's like, get over yourself. Have a life, move on, and grow up. Nobody does that in this movie. There's no three-dimensional characters. Nobody discovers anything, and nobody grows throughout the entire movie. Forgetting Sarah Marshall is a great 3D comedy that has the only thing it has with Judd Apatow is that he was produced it. It is nothing like his Superbad or Knocked Up or Funny People, where about these guys who can't get their life together. Jason Segel was in a long-standing relationship with Sarah Marshall, Kristen Bell's character. He has an actual job, unlike Seth Rogen's character in Knocked Up, unlike these high school kids in Superbad who have no idea what the hell they're doing. And Adam Sandler's character in Funny People who never understands to grow up. It has these great 3D characters in Kristen Bell who, at the beginning, you're thinking she's just a huge bitch, but as the movie goes on, it expands her character and it shows you that she wasn't just this bitch who was cheating on him with Alda Snow. Jason Segel really did give up on the relationship, and it took those relationships that it takes the relationships that everyone needs in their life, and to show you how you can do better. Just because you're in this long-term relationship with someone doesn't mean that's who you're going to end up with. It's something that Gone Girl should have realized. Just because we're in a long-term relationship doesn't mean that's who we're going to end up with. It could just be the person who makes us better. Kristen Bell made Jason Segel better for Mila Kunis' character, who again could have been her own manic pixie dream girl, but turned out to be this fully realized 3D character who doesn't back down, stands up for herself, doesn't deal with the Jason Segel shit like everyone's supposed to. You have the great supporting characters like Alda Snow. Talking about, and the fact that he wears out his welcome is fucking insane. He wears out his welcome and get him to the Greek. Now, you should not have had a whole movie around him, but the fact that he's a supporting character in Forgetting Sarah Marshall is a great role that has these great supporting characters with the Bill Hader character who has these great dialogues with him. They keep bringing it back through Skype, which is so great with him and his wife. You have Jonah Hill, who is just this unabashedly basically hard-on fan of Alda Snow and Infant Sorrow with their great songs like We Gotta Do Something. It is a great movie. It just builds on itself, ending with this amazing vampire puppet musical that is all about this tortured romance of the Van Helsing and Dracula. There's so many great parts. It is just one of the greatest comedies ever, and will, as its 10th anniversary this week, actually, will continue to get better and seen by more and more, not just as this quote-unquote Judd Apatow production, because it's so much more and so much better than that.
All right, so that's going to conclude this round and the main rounds as a whole. Oh shit, this is close. This is probably the closest round out of them all, because every single point one of you guys made, the other would, defend and reflect that, and would, bring up another interesting thing. So it came down to just, once again, one or two little things. And even though I disagree that this is not or that this is the better film over the other because of what Greg brought up in the main round and then again in the closing, where this one expands the characters and Russell Brand got a spin-off movie because of how good his character was and how the two, I guess you could say, love interest of Jason Segel in the movies were three-dimensional, were fleshed out, and the story took the turn to where, yeah, Christian Bale's character could have been looked at as a bitch, but ultimately ended up being the good one in the end. I'm gonna have to give the point to Greg.
Of
I
course.
do think Gone Girl is the better movie, though,
Yeah.
maybe even by a far, but it literally was just those little points that were brought up earlier. I felt like, especially the Russell Brand point, wasn't defended.
No, I
So
rebutted
that
that.
ultimate,
I definitely rebutted that point. I
oh,
absolutely.
With
I couldn't
lies.
recall it then. I don't know if
With
it was a
lies.
train or whatever.
It's okay.
my
He
point-
rebutted it with lies. It's okay.
I'm sorry. I will say that in my final point,
Yeah.
I made a point that Older Snow is very emblematic of the movie as a whole because it is a joke that is funny for about 5 minutes, and they take it and they expand it for a lot longer than that. If you think
Yeah, you rebutted it
if you're
with
basing this on the fact that the Older Snow point was not rebutted, it was in my final argument.
Okay. Yeah.
You
I
rebutted it with
didn't hear
lies.
that then. It probably was just a noise in the background that may have distracted me just with that little thing. But, like I said, it was very, very close. And I mean, if I would have heard that, I almost would have looked at it as maybe could we make it a draw, But nonetheless, Greg will take a 3-1 lead. We've seen people come back from a 3-1 deficit. It happened with the Chance Ellison and I feel so bad. Alex Warden.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I gotta get these questions brought up real quick for speed round. So okay, here we go. 3, 2. All right, so we're gonna enter the speed round. It's 3-1. It's not impossible for a comeback to happen. We've seen it happen very, very lately. So we're gonna head right in there. And the first speed round question, and I always love these type of questions where you're given two options and you have to pick one or you're stuck with the other. I
I
feel
hate
like
this.
it brings out the best arguments for people. And hell, you may not even get the one you want, but you could still win the point. So with that being said, what is the better comedy sequel? Horrible Bosses 2 or The Hangover 2?
Horrible Bosses 2.
Okay. So
What was the other
Luca's
movie?
going to have Horrible Bosses. Sorry?
What did I get? I didn't hear the second one.
Hangover 2. So
Okay.
Greg will be arguing for The Hangover 2. Luca will be arguing for Horrible Bosses. So since you answered first, Luca, you're going to go ahead and go first. You have 30 seconds.
We're talking about two films that are very, very similar to each other. The sequel is very similar to the first one. Horrible Bosses.
Oh, good. Tell me when you're ready. Are you ready? Okay. So since Luca did answer first, he's going to go first. You got 30 seconds on the clock, Luca.
We're talking about two films that are very, very similar to each other. Horrible Bosses 2 at least keeps some of the charm from the first movie. You've got Jason Sudeikis and Charlie Day, who are still very funny and kind of sympathetic. You've got Chris Pine, Jennifer Aniston, and Jamie Foxx, who are still so funny and so over the top and so out there. They're wonderful. Hangover Part 2 is kind of a dirtier movie. It's significantly worse. It's way, 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 way worse. The Wolfpack are made into a much less sort of fun group to be around, whereas the protagonists in Horrible Bosses 2 are much more interesting. And God, in Hangover Part 2, you have so much Leslie Chow at Ken Jeong. And he's such an unpleasant, offensive, sort of really not fun to watch character. Horrible Bosses 2 is samey, but it's not as offensive.
Time. All right, we'll give a few seconds to Greg. So, Greg, whenever you're ready, it's time for you to argue.
The great thing about Hangover 2 is that these are people who already went through this and still go through the same scenario they went through. It was they already had ways to affect it. They still fucked up. It's not Justin Bartha's character, a whole new character. They have to get back for the wedding. Stu decides to get back. It's in Thailand. It's a whole new setting. Leslie Chow is a great character who still does great. Horrible Bosses 2 is just creating the same old thing with new bosses. Some of them the same bosses. They try to expand, but they really don't. It's not anything funner or better. Hangover 2 is just something fun has great new characters, great dynamic, and the whole characters understand what they're doing and still fuck up, which is the great thing about this sequel that they threw up in 3, but this is about 2, and 2 is so much better.
All right, well, there you go. That's perfect time. So you got 15 seconds, Luca. So throw it all out there when you're ready.
Hangover 2 is a really, really unpleasant movie to watch. Horrible Bosses might be kind of similar, but it's still sort of funny and has the charm of the main characters. The charm of the original characters in Hangover 2 is completely gone. Thailand is wasted as a setting. Leslie Chow is wasted as a character. It is really unpleasant and makes no use of the opportunities it has. Horrible Bosses 2 is really fun.
All right. So whenever you're ready, Greg.
The way Hangover 2 evolves is that it brings up this Interpol agent with Paul Giamatti as this great added character, added plot. It's not just something that you thought would be the same at the end of Hangover 1. It's different with Hangover 2 is that they bring something else with the new Interpol agent thing. Horrible Bosses 2 doesn't change anything. It even brings back the same Jennifer Aniston character and Kevin Spacey's character, but they have to go back to prison. It's nothing new.
Oh, this got really close in the 15-second arguments. Sorry, I almost coughed there for a second. Like I said, very, very close. I had to go by like one little thing one person said. You guys really did counter the arguments that your opponent made, so it did make for a harder decision like it did for the last round. I don't think I heard any trains go by, so I should be good. With that, I should have caught everything, and I think because of just 1 or 2 points, I'm going to have to give this one to Luca. I mean, like I said, it was very close. It's just, you brought up the point that Hangover 2's dirtier. It doesn't have the same charm with the wolf pack, while Horrible Bosses 2, while not as good as the first one, was still able to feel like, the main cast anyway, have the same charm with one another. So I will give the points to Luca right there. I'll cut this out. I am at 30%, so I'm going to fly through this real quick. And then if it dies, that's why, but it's draining super, super slow, so I should have enough time for these next two. It's at 3. My phone's at 3, even though I have it charged, but because it's plugged in, it has and I should have enough time to finish the match for sure. If not, then I'll maybe we can just do the interviews with you if you're not working on schoolwork. If you are, then I'll be back in 5 or 10 minutes if it does. Okay, awesome. So 3. All right, so now we're going to go on to our second speed round question. It is 3-2. If Luca does get this, then we will have the 30-second, 20-second, and 10. Oh, sorry.
No, sorry, I was talking to myself.
Okay. So, here we go. So your next question is going to be this. What is the best James Bond movie?
Casino Royale.
GoldenEye.
All right. Casino Royale versus GoldenEye. I did hear Luca first, so he will go first again on this round, and then we'll go to Greg. So whenever you're ready, Luca.
Casino Royale was the vital reinventing that the James Bond franchise needed after the horrendous Die Another Day. Daniel Craig is a brilliant Bond. Matt Nicholson plays a wonderful villain. Eva Green is the greatest Bond girl of all time. It has a fantastic opening title sequence, but the best thing about it is the tone and the revitalization it had of Bond. It gave a new Bond for a new generation, expanded the franchise, and expanded the tone, and made the franchise bigger in a way that no film had before. It made it a series with real artistic merit and artistic credit, where it had been lounging around in campiness for so long. The plot is fantastic. The stakes are super high. The tension is there, and we get to see new and different sides of Bond that are really, really impressive.
All right. We're going to go over to Greg when he's ready.
GoldenEye is Pierce Brosnan's first and best James Bond performance, also setting up Judi Dench as M, which would go on throughout his movie and all the other movies. It is, and you talk about a great villain. This is the best villain because it's a villain that is has a personal connection to James Bond as Sean Bean, as his former MI6 agent as well. It has a great Famke Janssen as the villainess, like Xena Onatopp. It has set the stage for what James Bond could do and would do before getting all insane with Die of the Day. Casino Royale is a reinvention, but it's not a better reinvention. They would do it better with Skyfall. Casino Royale is kind of okay, but it's still setting up too much. GoldenEye is just hitting the ground running with fun.
All right. So, Luca, whenever you're ready, you got 15 seconds.
1 second. Yeah, so we're talking about two films who were directed by the same person, and GoldenEye is way too sort of caught up in the old sort of Roger Moore, Sean Connery style of Bond. Pierce Brosnan is not a very interesting Bond. He's too clean. He plays it too much like his Remington Steele TV character. Daniel Craig is a new and interesting Bond who did something in a way that we didn't think he could do. Daniel Craig we were initially very skeptical about, and he does fantastic here.
All right. And whenever you're ready.
Pierce Brosnan is quintessential fun Bond, which is what we want from James Bond. Daniel Craig takes that whole series to a whole new gritty level, but that we don't want. Eva Green is a good Bond girl, but she's wasted after the second part of that movie. The better movie is GoldenEye because that's the Bond we want. That's the Bond that was done great with Sean Connery and Roger Moore. It's something that expands and makes it better.
Oh, time.
Can I have 5 seconds? Because that was like way over time.
Bullshit.
I'll throw it to Aaron.
It's up to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Casino Royale is a better movie. Eva Green is not wasted. The end of the movie finishes that arc. Her character is the most meaningful there.
Okay. There we go.
See? He went over.
By a word.
Okay. So
You have one word.
That was
yeah, I was just like,
bull.
so 1 second would be not quite enough to bring out even a word or two. All right. So here we go. So, all right. So that is going to conclude this second question in the speed round, and another really close one. There was a lot thrown in there, so I couldn't catch everything both of you guys put out, but I did catch the main gist of it. I made sure I could remember the important little points. Jesus Christ, this is hard. Cheese and crackers. I feel like I'm gonna have to go on based on how many defenses you guys had towards one another and the hits. And just because there's so much in there, I feel like Luca had more attacks that weren't defended. Like I said, there was so much thrown in there that it was going to be hard to do that. But I feel like, see, because most of what you guys said was, defended by the other opponent. So I just feel like there was one or two more points that Luca had as a strength of his compared to you. That's how close it is. I mean, so yeah, that's how that was probably the closest speed round question that I ever have judged. And as far as watching too, it was just like literally you could flip a coin. That's how close it was. So yeah, I'm gonna have to give that to Luca though. So we will go to one last speed round question. You're gonna have 30 seconds, then 20 seconds, and then 10 seconds.
Gotta break my speed round curse. Christ.
So here we go. What is the worst Pixar movie? Brave,
Cars 2.
Monsters University,
Oh, sorry.
or The Good Dinosaur?
Wait, I didn't hear this. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the second part of the question.
Okay. Yeah, I should have said that. You got 3 choices, guys. 3 choices for this one, rather than 2. So, what is the worst Pixar movie? Brave, Monsters University, or The Good Dinosaur?
Monsters Universe.
Good Dinosaur.
All right. Luca once again went first, so you're going to have 30 seconds here, and Greg will have 30 seconds after. So, Luca, take it away.
Monsters University takes characters from a beloved film that we all love and puts them in an environment that we just never wanted to see them in. To see Mike and Sully and Randall in a high school setting just feels crass and outdated and try hard. None of the new characters are interesting at all. None of the old characters are given anything additional. It's a real waste of potential for a movie. I don't know why they've decided to do this kind of high school setting type thing. The Good Dinosaur at least has kind of an interesting environment that we've not seen Pixar do before. We've not seen Pixar do the kind of the prehistoric thing before.
There's that. Now, I do have 1% left on my phone, so we'll see how far I get to go on this one. So, all right, Greg. Okay, so I do have 1%. So, okay, so here you go. All right, so Greg, you're gonna have 30 seconds. Go when you're ready.
First of all, Monsters University is at college, not high school. It creates a whole new dynamic between Mike and Wiskowski because we don't see them. We thought they were just great friends always, but they actually weren't. They were popular people. Mike was popular, and Billy Crystal's character was not. Good Dinosaur is a movie that had so much problems, so much potential with the dinosaurs, but it had too many problems that it couldn't deal with. It went too far with the dinosaur-human connection, and it didn't really have to. It didn't really bar up. Monster University was something different because it didn't have the human character. It was just in the monster world, which is something different. It expanded on the.
Yep. Yeah, 20 seconds, Luca.
Monsters University is not doing something different. It's taking something from a franchise that we know and putting it into a genre we know. We know everything that's going to happen because it's this traditional like college hijinks type comedy thing. The Good Dinosaur does what Pixar does best. It sort of looks at connections between humans and non-human things. And Arlo, I think, is like a really interesting character. Raymond Ochoa does a very good performance. Sam Elliott's great in that movie, and Hackman is really good.
All right. Whenever you're ready, Greg.
Monster University is about what happens when you get to a place you think you're going to be great at and then you fail. Mike thought he was going to be great as a scarer and he failed. So he tried to do so much better. Sully was just this natural, and it's what happens when you have this connection but you don't. Arlo is nothing really special. There's no dynamic that happens. Oh my God, the dinosaurs survived. That doesn't matter anything. Monster University has created this whole new exemplary.
All right. Luca, whenever you're ready.
Is this the 10-second argument?
Yeah.
Okay. The Good Dinosaur provides a new environment. It has a fun and interesting cast. It sort of looks at the connection, and I think that it's visually very interesting. I think that Monsters University is so tired looking. It takes so many tropes. We know exactly what's going to happen.
All right. Greg, up to you now. You got 10 seconds.
Monsters University is just something that Pixar did better with Cars and Toy Story, and something where it puts 2 people together and it doesn't really do good. It was the lowest performing of the Pixar. Monsters University is better, creates something new. It creates characters we want and love. Good Dinosaur is never going to get a sequel.
All right. So that is going to do.
Yeah, time, right?
Round. Yeah. Just to keep time in there, just time as a factor, I am going to have to give this to Greg. I have to give the point to Greg. There was just a couple points that he brought up with Monsters University, with the added mythology. With maybe mythology is not the best word for me, but it adds with Mike and Sully's character. It was really close, but just the 1 point that he made right there was just enough. Literally, if he didn't have enough time to make another point, it would have been tied. That's how close it was. So that's gonna do it. That means Greg will win 4-3. This was a great match. This really proves that this should. What? Yeah, if you could do the interviews, that'd be great. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Matt.
Gonna die, so.
Cheers,
No
Matt.
problem. Good match, guys.
I think it's possible. I want to say up front, despite sparks flying during the match, despite getting very passionate about things, I want to give full credit to Matt. I think that by and large the judging went well. I was a little bit upset about that last question because I made a point he did not hear it, and the judging went a different way potentially because of that. Because he brought it up in his argument. But besides that, which I think is potentially an issue, but that's more of a technology issue than anything else. I want to say that I got kind of passionate a couple of times, and all the credit in the world to Matt. He's a great judge. It didn't go my way today. It's been a while. I was very nervous going into this. I'm disappointed. This is not the way I wanted this to go, obviously, but yeah, potentially had something to do with the break. It is what it is. You don't always get there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do this like this. So one of the things that people might not know about me, one of the things that people are not very likely to know about me at all, is that I have a chronic health condition that keeps me unable to be up and about very much and unable to do a lot of stuff. I'm also in the UK, as a lot of people will know. And because of that, I do a lot of stuff out of time zone, specifically very late at night and early in the morning. I also begun to realize recently that I am involved in a lot of trivia and debate leagues, and I kind of base my self-worth on it. So what I'm trying to say is that I don't think I'll be competing in that 5-way match because I'm not sure what my future is in regards to this. My health is not good, mental or physical. And while I have great joy and fun here, I think I need to take a bit of a look at myself and what I want from this. So as much as I'm disappointed right now, I think being out of the tournament is the best thing for me because I need a break. I don't know how long that break is going to be. Probably going to last past the 5-way match. I love doing this. I like this more than trivia, but it takes a toll, physical and mental. And there comes a point in time where you just gotta say, this is it for a while. So in regards to the 5-way, no, I don't think so. In regards to the future, that's a different question. I wasn't gonna end up. I'd rather go out losing to a brother-in-arms, friend, someone who I respect and love and think is just fantastic. All the congratulations in the world to Greg. I enjoyed hating your guts for an hour and a half. I will now continue to love you. We'll go back to that because you're a diamond, and you should go kick Isaac's ass, so you can then go kick either Jeremy or Alex's ass, so you can then kick that fucking punk Evan DeGraff to the curb, get that belt, and we will have belts everywhere, Greg Weinstein. Everywhere.
Damn right. Well, first I wanted to say thank you to Luca for putting a damper on my victory.
I'm not just here.
And yeah, kudos. and kudos to Matt for judging. Yeah, we give him a shit, but yeah, it's all. It's all in good fun. I'll give you shit right now if you want. But yeah, no, I am excited. I guess I'm top top four before the number one, so I got to beat Isaac and then one more to get to Evan. Um, so that is awesome. Now that I'm this close, and since I just took out Luca, who was the only other person I wanted to win, now I have to win because anyone else who would win, me and Luca would just hate and would just want to take a blowtorch to this entire group if that happens. Because no one deserves to win besides killer chemistry in any league, obviously. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I've seen Isaac play. I've seen Isaac play before. He is like I said, he's also a very boisterous guy. We're both quite loud in our arguments and stuff, which I think obviously plays dividends. They say the louder the better. That's my motto. But I am overall just looking forward to it. It was a hell of a match by Luca. Like I said, if it wasn't me, I wanted it to be him, but I'm happy it was me. And I'm just excited about moving forward and seeing what else comes along and facing Isaac and hopefully getting my rematch against Jeremy, which I still think I deserve that victory. So I want to get my. I'm hoping Jeremy beats Adam, and so I could. Yeah.
No, he's called Adam.
Like, something with an A. Yes, I can. So I'm hoping to get my rematch there. Yeah, hoping you beat. Yeah, it was a great match, great fun. Yeah. I want my rematch. It was a tough match. It was just like this one. It pushed it to the limit. But yeah, I want my redemption, and I can't think of any better person to beat on my way to destroying Evan than Jeremy. So, if I'm going to get the belt, I might as well beat the only person who beat me, which was Jeremy. No disrespect to Alex, who is a great competitor, but I think if I'm going to get that belt, I should beat the person who beat me to get it. Eh.
You can find me on World Wide Movie Games doing There Will Be Trivia. You can find me with this guy as one half of Team Killer Chemistry, the best team in the league, taking on Notorious Chance and kicking their asses. You can find me in the singles tournament taking on somebody. Literally no idea who's doing that. You can find me at Jack of All Trivia in the Jukebox Trivia Championship on Monday. Besides that, you can find me doing Full Metal Media stuff every so often. I'll probably not be doing as much trivia there, but I'll definitely occasionally be doing Full Metal 5 and stuff like that. Besides that, I appreciate the fact that there have been a lot of statues of myself turning up at my house, like big golden things that people have made for me, and I appreciate the effort put into that, but I find it a little bit bizarre, and I don't have space for them. So if you could stop sending giant effigies of myself made out of solid gold, I'd appreciate that. Just send me money if you want to do that. So please. You can find the Movie Battle Band Patreon at www.patreon.com/this is a joke. I hope for you to have me back too.
Pretty much ditto what Luca said. Watching Killer Chemistry kick ass and any trivial lead that there happens to be, and then just the rest of here, kicking ass, kicking Isaac's ass, kicking Jeremy's ass, kicking Evan's ass, kicking a lot of ass. Pretty much what I do. I do apologize. Exactly. I do apologize, Luca. I've sent you way too many burning effigies.
So
I'm just bored.
So weird.
Before I go to China, I'm just bored.
How did you get the flight to happen while it was in the parcel?
The UPS guys owe me a favor.
Right. Just burn in the box.
But yeah, and then you'll also see me in China, awesomely, doing stuff. That's about it.
You can find Greg at China.
At China, all over China.
Greg can't find you because they don't have Google. He's that movie guy, isn't he?
That movie guy, isn't it?
Get hashtag justice from Muppets going, guys. We need it.